Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I wanted to talk about the very, I guess not the very first scene, but we actually have a scene that was released for episode 1 of season 2. So let's break it down here. It's a scene with Carol and Ash, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. The show is returning in just 3 days now. We're getting a lot of new information here for the season. I will be doing a video actually breaking down a lot of the information that we learned yesterday in terms of character portraits, additional scenes, and interviews and all of that. And I mean, that basically almost takes us to Sunday. So also my Q&A video, I will be getting on that. That likely will be coming out tomorrow as well because yeah, there's just a lot of stuff coming out right now, but I won't forget about the Q&A. So if you do actually want to take part in the Q&A, I still haven't recorded anything yet. Definitely go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. The link should be in the description of the video. There's a Q&A channel there. And yeah, just in there, post your question and I'll probably record at some point tomorrow and then post the Q&A at some point tomorrow as well. But let's actually break down this scene here. So this is a scene from episode 1, the very first episode, which I don't remember exactly the title because it's something in French, but I know that the translation is The Kindness of Strangers. And we're very much seeing that in this scene here from the premiere. And we see Carol and Ash. Carol is asking Ash, like, I need to get to France. I really gotta save my friend. I know that he went there. And Ash in this scene is very much like, well, we have no way in knowing like that we're going to be able to get there because there's no communication with anybody. We don't really know where we're going. Like there's just, we could die doing this and you still want to go. And Carol is just like, yeah, you know, this is sort of the only thing she can do right now. This is what she wants to do. And she really needs to save Daryl. And I think, you know, what Carol says specifically in this scene is very interesting because she says she feels very stuck. And I personally do like relate with that. There's just like certain points, and I feel like a lot of people relate with that just in general in their life. Like there's certain moments in your life where you do just kind of feel stuck and like, you know what, I'm not really doing anything. I'm doing sort of the same thing. And I need to, I don't know, no matter what I do, I'm just in the same place and I need to sort of change something. I need to do something different basically. And I just need to sort of just start doing something. And Carol in this scene is saying that, you know, she feels like there's something wrong. And I think she's just really lost, honestly, without Daryl in that sense. Like I feel like Daryl and Carol aren't necessarily, you know, dependent on each other. Obviously, they're very independent people, but I just feel like she senses that something's off. Daryl hasn't been around for a while and she's worried about him. And I think that her just living at the Commonwealth doing nothing, she just kind of feels stuck there. Sophia's death, you know, maybe it is starting to come back up. A lot of feelings of that because I know that Melissa McBride has talked about that and also someone else talked about that too recently. I think maybe it was David Zabel or it was Greg Nicotero, but somebody involved with the show was mentioning that for Carol, that wasn't a big focus in the Walking Dead original series. Actually, I think this was an early review or something that I saw this from. But anyways, they didn't really focus on that too much. And so a lot of how Carol dealt with that and dealt with Sophia's loss was really sort of ignored. And I think a lot of that coming back up here, you know, Daryl's disappearance is starting to remind her of Sophia's disappearance. And I think just being at the Commonwealth, doing whatever job she was doing, like, you know, like I feel like for her, she wants a little bit more meaning in her life. Daryl's not here, you know, she doesn't have Sophia. She's just sort of by herself. And maybe Rick and Michonne have made it back. And maybe Carol knows about that. And so she's just kind of, she's wondering where Daryl is. And a lot of this is hitting her all at once here, right? And she's really wondering, like, where is he? Is there something wrong with him? And obviously that those feelings of Sophia missing are starting to come back because, you know, Daryl's missing now. And so now she's like, I need to find him. Like, I really need to make sure that he's okay. And so that's why she's so desperate here. And so Ash, I think personally he went through something as well, and that's why he can relate so easily, because otherwise it doesn't really make too much sense for Ash to be like, all right, let's go do this, right? Because like for Ash to just completely agree with that is kind of insane, because he might have a whole life that he has right now. Like I know sort of the description that they gave is that I think he is just sort of by himself at his farm or whatever, and then he flies his plane around here and there, but I'm pretty sure he's just there by himself, and it's a place that he stays at because of personal reasons. There's something to do with his backstory there anyways, in terms of why he stays there all the time. And so I think that he's obviously understanding of what Carol's going through right now, and I think he probably gets it because he went through something like that, and maybe he's going through something very similar. And so he and Carol might get along very, very well, honestly. Like they really might understand each other entirely and are just like, yeah, I totally get it. And so I think that's why Ash ultimately decides to help Carol here. And Ash, honestly, in terms of first impressions, because obviously we've seen him a lot in like teasers, this and that, but I've never really seen a scene like this where you're just focusing on the character like talking and an actual conversation happening with Carol, and he's a very likable character. I actually hope that he is a bigger part of the season here. I think that if he died in the first episode, it would be kind of unfortunate, because I really like his reaction here because Carol says, I had to move forward, I had to try, and the way she says it, Ash's reaction afterwards, he just sort of looks away, like he's not looking directly at Carol anymore, and he's thinking like, I totally understand that. I get that. I had to move forward. I had to do something. I just had to move forward. And so that right there tells me that he understands people. He understands, the pain that a lot of people go through, and the fact that he's willing to help Carol here, I think is very amazing. And I do think that he's going to be a very likable character, which I guess for The Walking Dead is kind of concerning, because if he's very likable, it likely means he's going to die at some point this season, right? And I think that Ash could really fit in with the group really well. There's certain characters that do become very likable and you do want to actually have around. And Ash, I think, could actually fit, with the group. Like, Isabel is also really likable, right? And that's the thing too, like, when it comes to characters being very likable and like becoming fan favorites, I think really it just comes down to casting and some of the storylines that you're giving them. And I know that that's probably something that this show might be a little concerned about, and we can talk about it after season 2 is over, and, depending on like if there's any characters left going into season 3, because I feel like this show is very concerned about bringing too much of a cast along from season to season, because that was the issue with The Walking Dead. They had such a big cast by the time they got to season 11 that it was, the story wasn't really focused on like one character, or if it was, a lot of characters got ignored. So that was always an issue constantly. People complained about this character just completely disappearing, or, this character, like the main characters, not getting enough screen time. So you always have to choose between, both of them. And I feel like Daryl Dixon is really avoiding that by killing off a lot of the characters. And again, we'll have to see after season 2 is over which character survives. Maybe some characters survive, but they just sort of say their goodbyes. And then in season 3, it starts off with Daryl and Carol in a new place in Spain, meeting newer characters. We'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be something that we obviously talk about quite a bit, I think, after the season 2 finale. But I really do like Ash's reaction here, because after he completely understands, what Carol's going through, Ash is just like, all right, let's go. Like, we got a bunch of work to do here. And so obviously they got to set up this plane, or I'm not sure what they have to do entirely, maybe something wrong with the engine or just something like that. And I think that they're going to have to work on this, and maybe there's walkers that come close, and so that's sort of an issue as well. And they just got to figure out in terms of fuel how they're going to get to France. And maybe they got to sort of calculate all of that, like how much fuel do we need to get to France? And obviously they're probably going to have some sort of mission that they have to go on here, which will likely be the whole thing of the episode, right? And I think that could be honestly maybe related to why Carol ends up in that greenhouse or whatever that area is, that garden or whatever, and then obviously encounters a bunch of walkers. It's probably connected to a lot of that. But really cool, honestly, to talk about an actual scene from episode 1. This feels like The Walking Dead is officially back now. It's always like little moments like this that take you back to like when the show was airing and all of that, right? Like, oh, we're talking about this scene. Like, literally, I mean, it feels like that now because we're within the week that episode 1's coming out. But after episode 1 airs this Sunday, there's going to be so much talk about the show all day that we're going to get the sneak peeks and the trailers for episode 2. And then all next week, we're going to be so focused on episode 2 and talking about, I guess the big reaction to episode 1, whatever happens in that episode or whatever. And so I'm just, this is really incredible. I'm going to get to work on some breakdowns of some other things that they've been actually releasing. There's actually a teaser for, I guess, the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, The Return, which obviously sees Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride back in Alexandria, and I think other locations basically talking about some of their story, revisiting stuff and whatnot. There's going to be a lot of nostalgia, I think, with that episode. And then that's also coming out as well on the same day of the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon premiere. So we're going to be able to watch 2 things. I will have a review and breakdown of that most likely on that day. I'm not sure of the time. I mean, it's going to be way after my review and trailer breakdown, but I do like doing like an overall review breakdown, or I talk about my favorite scenes and stuff. Like I usually like posting videos like that after the episode comes out on cable. So maybe it's between there, depending on how much time I have. And there's also character portraits that came out as well. So I do want to talk about that because I didn't think that we were ever going to actually be getting character portraits, but we did. We officially have character portraits, which is just absolutely insane. I didn't think we were going to be getting that because they just took so long, honestly, to sort of release anything for that, but they actually did release a bunch of character portraits, and it's so cool. It really does look like classic Walking Dead character portraits, and we have our 4 main characters as well. There's Daryl, Carol, Isabel, and Laurent. So yeah, I'll break that down. There's an interview with Melissa McBride as well. I'll get into all of that, and also my Last of Us breakdown. I will be getting into that at some point later on today, because The Last of Us released the trailer for season 2, and yeah, that's very exciting. So I'm gonna leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.